see it.
Welcome back to Dirtbike Magazine's video series, The 23s, where we take you up close and personal with all the 2023 motocross models in the 4-stroke versions available in the US today. Today we're getting a chance to ride the brand new 2023 KX250. Now you might be looking at this bike thinking, it looks the same as last year's. Maybe some graphic changes or something underneath, but they actually changed this bike a lot. There's a lot that goes into the new intake and a lot that goes into the new head design and new piston. So there's a lot that goes into that. They did refine some of the stuff when it comes to suspension settings, front and rear. And then there is some weight savings going along with it with the new pegs and the new aluminum peg hangers. Big news in the tire department is the MX-33. They went with a larger size this year. Last year was a 100/90/19. This year it's a 110/90/19. So we'll see what happens. So things that have changed on the 2023 model are new fine-tuned rear shock settings, new Dunlop MX-33 front and rear tires, a new wider 110/90/19 rear tire, new lighter, wider foot pegs, new foot peg hanger brackets are now aluminum rather than steel, a longer header pipe, new lighter fork guard bolts, new fine-tuned fork settings, new racer-friendly transmission gearing, new advanced ignition timing, new repositioned upstream injector, new straighter intake duct, new intake valve and a valve pitch, all for increased engine performance. Now it's pretty clear to us that Kawasaki's going after the performance side. They're going after the racer. So if you want more in-depth specs on this 2023 KX250, head over to dirtbikemagazine.com. We've talked enough. We want to go see how this thing runs. We just got done with our first day of testing on the 2023 Kawasaki KX250. We were surprised by a couple things. The bike does perform better than last year's model, especially up on top where they kind of did the new design on the piston, the new smaller valve, all that kind of stuff, the new straighter intake, the new repositioned upper injector. All of that stuff actually did make a difference. You can tell this bike does pull longer and harder on top end. Down low, it didn't really lose a lot of power because they have that longer head pipe, kind of tricking the engine a little bit. Still give it that good bottom end, but then make it to where it does rev on top. And the bike does perform noticeably better on top. The one thing that did surprise us, we get a lot of people telling us we updated the engine and we made the gears, you know, closer together, and we did this and we did that. Well, all of the stuff feedback that they've been getting from the pro circuit race team went into the transmission, and they upgraded or changed gearing ratios on first, second, and third gear, all to make the transition a little bit smoother throughout. First gear on the 2023 model is actually more usable on a tight track like Perris. We were actually using it going in and out of corners a little bit more than we would in the past. We could let it go a little bit longer before we shifted because it was still making power down in first gear. I was actually surprised a couple times that I was still in first gear and I wasn't having to feather it in second. But then when you click up to second, it carries that next gear. And the big thing that we noticed is the transition from second to third gear. Before we'd get that kind of on the power, on the revs, and then we'd shift up to third, the power would kind of come down a little bit and then have to build back up. No such thing now. That bike, you shift it from second to third and it's right in the meat of the power right away. So all the changes made motor-wise, it definitely performs better. On the suspension side, it looks like they tried to go again after the more racer guy, the more maybe that's going to be hitting stuff a little bit harder than the average 250 rider. I'm a little bit bigger than the average 250 target rider. I tipped the scale somewhere around 180, 185. For me, the front end was a little bit soft. We started off with the race sag about 100 millimeters. I ended up going, because I like my bikes to kind of sag a little bit in the back, maybe racing off-road and making it to where it's a little bit more comfort for me. I ended up about 104, 105 millimeters. And then that gave me the overall balance that I wanted. And then I started messing around with some rebound clickers and some compression adjusters and stuff like that, but never really got anything that I liked better than the actual stock settings. The bike is a little bit more nervous. And I don't know if I really want to call it nervous, or it's a little bit more lively than the 2022 model. It kind of moves around a little bit. It's a lot more sensitive to clickers, but it moves around a little bit more. Overall, on big hits, there's more comfort, but it is a little bit nervous. I was having right off the bat when I had the bike set up at about 100 millimeters of sag, it wanted to knife a little bit going into corners, and it wanted to grab that front end and kind of turn, and I didn't want it to turn that quickly. Perris is a unique track to test at. We're gonna be doing a lot more testing on this motorcycle overall, but as of right now, first day of riding, the bike is better, especially performance-wise and shifting-wise. All that stuff is better. Suspension-wise, it's gonna take a little bit more dialing in and taking it to other tracks. Perris, as you can see in the video, didn't get really rough. It kind of gets rutted and it has some braking bumps and acceleration bumps, but it doesn't get rough like what a big track like maybe a Paula or a Kahia Creek or Glen Helen. We do a lot of testing there. A little bit higher speed, a little bit rougher, more square edges, a lot of elevation changes. So we're gonna do a lot more testing with this motorcycle. We're gonna take it to all those tracks that I just mentioned and kind of see dialing in of suspension and what we're gonna do. So just to recap it all, the test riders that rode the bike today at Perris, everybody agrees that more performance in the engine. The suspension is dialed in a little bit more to the aggressive rider. It's gonna take some dialing in a little bit more to get it exactly the way that we want it, but suspension is a personal preference thing. So kudos to the Kawasaki engineers for some stuff that they've learned from the race team, the pro circuit race team. We're gonna do, like we said, a lot more testing on this motorcycle. We plan on throwing it into a shootout later on, just like we always do. So clearly Kawasaki's goal was improve performance throughout the motorcycle. We definitely think that they hit the performance mark in the engine. The engine is faster, it does rev longer on top, so they hit it there. When it comes to performance suspension wise, that's gonna take a little bit more dialing in. But if you have a current Kawasaki and you're looking for a little bit more excitement out of it, the 2023 model might be just what you're looking for. If you got a little bit more time on your hands and you want to check out some of the other 2023 videos that we've done, hit the video thumbnail now, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all of our latest releases.